So good evening. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're here for what's going to be a wonderful in conversation with Leticia Valverdes. Um, I had a great chat with Leticia last night. I learned a lot about her, but I really ought to let her introduce herself. Tonight, you're not actually at the BBC, though. I was kind of hoping I could say, for the very first time, our correspondent from the BBC.
I was there. I was in a little booth in the BBC canteen when I talked to Sean yesterday. And you know what, Sean? I never realized, but most people had gone up by the time I left. People, the security guard was passing by the canteen, looking at me in the little booth. Who's she talking to? Go home, girl. But I think I overstayed my invitation there yesterday. Yes, I'm in Bristol, guys. Welcome, everyone.
You. So, um, what we haven't tested this evening is you sharing your desktop, Letitia. I know we can do it. So,
Yes. Do you want me to start?
if you would, that would be
Yeah.
wonderful. So, thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you
Hopefully, we
so
can.
much. We were
As
saying
usual,
earlier,
remember if you pop questions in the chat window, we'll ask them when Letitia's going to take a breath. There'll be obvious places where we can ask a few questions.
yes. And also, Sean, will be good. Can everyone see the slide?
Yes, yeah, we see the slides now. Yeah,
And it will be really interesting if people are asking questions and if you think they are pertinent to the actual slide I'm in, I'm very happy to hear. I love questions and I love a conversation more than speaking on my own.
great.
I'm so thankful for everyone that is here. We just realized, Donat and I were talking a little earlier, how we booked this on the day without knowing months ago, the day that England is playing their first football game of the World Cup. So whoever is here, yeah, welcome. I know it's not a popular day to be on stuck on a screen inside the house. Maybe people on a pub. Um, but we are going to finish before the game starts, so that's good news. I'm Leticia. I'm a Brazilian born photographer, human, who actually adopted this country a long time ago. And if I tell you when, you will know how old I am. But yeah, I came in the mid 90s to study English and I stayed. And I ended up going to university here and have worked survived, I would say, for many years as a photographer. Um, Let me just see, how do I get there? So, yes, I love to say that I tell stories of people and of the planet as well. Um, been doing this worldwide for 20 years, over 20 years. And as a photojournalist, sometimes, so I've traveled very much for magazines, especially the Sunday Times magazine, because as I was leaving college in London, the university, I won an award for photojournalism called the Ian Parry Award. It's a well-known scholarship. And at the time, I had no camera equipment, and I was giving my first equipment and actually an assignment in Pakistan because I proposed to go there. And I was thrown into that world, even though the project I won with was not very much a photojournalism project. I'm going to quickly show it here in a while in a few slides. But somehow I won this prize, and the patron of this prize is Don McCallan, a very respected photojournalist. And I was just thrown into that world. But very early on, I was also given commissions in the Amazon, in my country, and fell in love with the region. But what I've also been doing, as well as the photojournalism, can everyone hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Thank you. Also, I have always done personal projects, also always somehow creating a project here and there, and what we now call socially engaged photography. I don't think I knew that was called that, but always involving somehow people in the making of a project, in the construction of whatever reality we were talking about. And I guess curiosity and empathy have always been a reason for me to get to people. And I guess the photography has been an excuse, the camera has been an excuse for me to learn of different lives, different ways of life. and of being. And equally, some of the projects have been featured. I put this here because I don't know if you can see if the focus is, if the resolution is good enough, but this is September, RPS Journal, September 2000. And I discovered this when the building, the new RPS building was opened in Bristol, where I live. I went there and went into the library and discovered the magazine was there. It was so special in the archive. But this was the work I did with Brazilian street girls of the streets of Brazil that actually won the Empire Award, and the RPS featured at the time on the cover. But yeah, those projects, especially the personal ones, not the photojournalism ones, they end up in different places, different outcomes. Portrait of Britain. I have one with two different pictures before, but somehow very much part of collaborations or bigger projects, and somehow one portrait. This is Joseph, who got to see his portrait. For Joseph to see his portrait, I asked JCD, called the people that do the screens, because he was quite ill already and not quite frail and couldn't wait for the loop of Portrait of Britain all on the screens. And I actually asked if in the area where he was living in Golders Green for one specific hour, they could put his portrait a little bit more often on the loop. So to make sure that he would see himself, and he did. And it was a very special moment. But again, working with asylum seekers in London, creating postcards of themselves on places that they might not feel entitled to visit or even be seen, and then sending those postcards back home to someone. And there was just various different projects, too many to bring here, that I've been doing throughout the years, sometimes with the help of the Arts Council, sometimes always in partnership with a charity, with an institution, having ideas and somehow involving people through a series of workshops and somehow having an outcome of some sort. But how did I get into that? So I was actually doing fine art in London in the late 90s. And then halfway through, I think I feel very pleased that it was still an analog world. I don't know how many of you guys are doing film or doing digital, but I'm very pleased that somehow I experienced the whole dark room and the fumes of a dark room, the darkness and the magic of seeing a photo coming up and, in the chemicals in the bucket. And I really fell in love with photography, and very much towards the end of my course, that's all I wanted to do. But I had no equipment. And at some point I asked my teacher, who I still have contact with, this amazing man, Mick Williamson, talked to him yesterday. Actually, he lent me a Pentax K1000, and because I wanted to go back to the streets of Brazil, a country that very much suffers with it's a very disparate country with a lot of poverty and the gap between rich and poor is very pronounced. And I had been brought up seeing kids living on the street, and very much even since I was a child, not understanding why some children didn't have homes and had to live in this area in this way. But somehow I already knew, and I'm showing this here because the first project that I did ever with the borrowed equipment and a little bit of film. I think Fuji or some other sponsor and a Brazilian airline sponsored me. I was quite a poor student actually. And I went, but very much somehow knowing I wanted to tell a different story, and then being completely inspired by the girls that were living on the street more than the boys. They would go to a public toilet and they would just be there in front of the toilet playing with themselves, taking the cups out and the hoodies, or just, and I started to realize they were not exploring femininity in a way that a teenage growing girl can, if they have a mother in a house with a wardrobe, with safety. They very much were dressing down to protect themselves from on the streets, from men. I would go, and even in shelter homes, when they were living in shelter homes, I would not know if a girl was a boy or a girl. And they don't have mirrors much in their lives because even in shelters, there are fights and they break mirrors, boys and girls fight. And anyway, I just went back to my own home in São Paulo at the time, my home of childhood, because I was myself just coming out, early 20s. And I picked up the clothes that I used to play with as a teenager, in terms of dressing up clothes, not clothes that rich Brazilian teenagers wear or anything like that. Not fashion and styling them, but just playing with clothes and dressing up and makeup and mirrors, and literally bringing this dress up box from not my teenage years, but my childhood years, and literally playing, giving them cameras, photographing themselves, and then bringing photos back, somehow bringing a register of those moments of fun, of joy. And as I said, I did not know this would be called socially engaged photography or participatory photography. I just knew that I wanted them and they want. I just was hearing them and knowing that and hearing what they felt. They didn't want to be shown in a tragic way, and they used to tell me, oh, can we go to a beautiful garden? Oh, can we go to a more beautiful place? And so we did. We play on the streets. This is my mother's wedding dress from the 70s that I brought to the streets, and there we created weddings, and some of them were the brides, some of the bridesmaids, and we just played and played. And the reason I'm showing this here, not only because it's the project that gave me my first idea of how I wanted to work, but also this project is now all those years, it became it became a book, a big exhibition. It traveled because it won the Empire Award. But I'm sure you can see that it's not photojournalism. It's me coming and going, okay, let's together transform reality. But somehow it won the Empire Award. And and now this book has been sold out, but discovered by a Belgian curator last year. And it came into an exhibition that's so beautiful. It's called Girls, and it's all about girlhood throughout the times. And this exhibition has Degas, it's called Louise Bourgeois, and suddenly my beautiful girls from Brazil. And it's now going to be at the Grand Palais in December in Paris for 3 months. So this exhibition is traveling. But this is them on the streets. And I'm sorry that I only have those small photos. The definition is terrible, but it's when they came to the exhibition in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and saw themselves and signed books and felt that they existed in a way that you sometimes in the streets very invisible. I'm just going to go and so this gave me that format of working that I've felt I wanted to develop, but not in a I was not conceptualizing about that at the time at all. I was just going there and doing something in my instinct. When I came back, this was with the Pentax K1000 that you saw borrowed from my lovely teacher. But then when I won the Empire Award, I was given all my equipment by Nikon. It was part of the prize, so I felt like I now could be a photographer. And well, when off I went to Pakistan for my first assignment. And then I'm going to jump for something that is again is still what I say people story and is much more recent, and is a very personal story about my grandmother. And she is again, I'm bringing it here because it's a great example of how you can just arrive somewhere in my this is in my concept, that's how I work, and involve people in a way that might feel enticing and participatory for them. Before I jump in this, I'm going to show very few slides of this. It's just because it shows something very different to what was happening on the streets of Brazil and to the Amazonian project I will show you afterwards. Before I go on, are there any questions?
I've got a couple really. Was there any sense of personal risk when you were, on the streets? Obviously, the girls are at risk all the time. Was there any sense of?
Yes, is a very good question, Sean, because not only there was, but the police would stop to to tell me not to be there with a camera on the street. And then the girls who then by then knew me and were almost like, protecting me, would say, you see, they think we are all criminals. the girls would tell me, I guess there is danger, of course, going with a camera to the streets and stuff, but somehow I got into this little bubble almost, a project making bubble where I was just this crazy woman coming with this red dress and this wedding dress and all this makeup and mirrors, and then this bubble of girls because I didn't do this just in São Paulo, I did in Rio, in Salvador, which is another capital of the Northeast, and São Paulo and another capital in the Northeast. Somehow, I don't know, maybe it was the arrogance of youth on me that somehow felt I was safe. And I think I was safe with them, and they were offended when the police was stopping and saying, "What are you doing with your camera? They're going to steal from me." And they were themselves saying, "Look, we see how we are seen and perceived."
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks.
And that's obviously now a short while ago. Is there any kind of remaining contact? Do they know that there was this new exhibition going to happen?
No, and it's really hard that no, there was contact for some years. There were the books that went back. There was the exhibition. There was them on the Brazilian national news. It was incredible. We closed the Brazilian national news, and they had no TV to watch, especially the core group of girls that I was working with. And at the time of the national news, I took them to a DVD. Remember those shops that we rented DVDs from? Not DVDs, VHSs from.
VHS tapes back then, yeah.
They had lots of TVs in the shop, and I asked them to put on the national news so all the girls could watch themselves. But unfortunately, I lost contact, and I often go back and I think that one of my issues is that perhaps I should have gone and made a film with them or something. Life on the streets is very short. Life on
Mm,
the streets, you invariably get involved with drugs and get, I mean, is violent. And I feel sad. A few years back, I tried to get contact because there are sometimes people, women that didn't have documents, and didn't. I
mm.
went back and found one lady, and she by then had a baby. When they have babies on the streets, the babies are taken away from them. So some of the ones that had, because they have boyfriends, girlfriend, they have
The human.
they are humans and they are sometimes having babies very early and the exhibition in São Paulo, this girl here, she had already had to give up her baby. It had gone for adoption. They are not able to keep their babies, and she saw the baby in the exhibition and obviously has the photo and stuff. But for some hours we could play mother daughter Playful. And I've at the time this work got really to be seen, and I went to Women's Hour and talked about it. And I remember the presenter asking me, someone else that was in the program, something that so it's always a question, isn't it? But you give those moments of joy and then you go.
Yeah.
Um, is a question, is obviously a pertinent question, but is it better not to ever have moments of joy and the memory of it?
Yeah.
And feel somehow. I see how she's touching the photo here with the baby.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So
it
I think
is
I prefer that
amazing.
they have registers of a register of, I don't have it here, but I have, I guess you see in this photo of her having a photo back. By the time I came back, she was not well, Tatiana. And
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
mom died not long after this as well. They lived underneath a viaduct. But at least she had those moments. And she's the one that asked me to go to this beautiful garden because she didn't want to be photographed underneath the viaduct in this way, as you see here. Um, so it was very much guided by them, but also it's very sad to think that they are not going to, yeah, they're not going to know they are alongside Louise Bourgeois and Degas and lots of interesting contemporary artists in Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will, Sean, I'm happy for you to control my time because I do want to go to the main project that
Okay.
I want to show you, which is the environmental bursary winner.
Yeah. It's okay. So roll on through. A
So,
personal
yeah.
story now. Yeah.
So Diana is yet another participatory personal project. And my grandmother Anna, this lady here, went to Brazil when she was 1.5 and never went back to Portugal, her motherland. And unfortunately, by the time we could perhaps afford for her to be paid a flight to, a trip to Europe, to Portugal, she had Alzheimer's. So in this photo, I went often when I started to be a photojournalist, I was paid to go to Brazil and I could visit, and we were very much linked and soulmates, as she used to say. And by this time, she was not recognizing herself much in the mirror. But there was a longing for Portugal. And obviously, she had no memories of her own of Portugal. It was from my great grandmother, who also hadn't gone back. Only people that go back, I think people go back when they make money enough, and and a lot of people never go back to motherland. But she would talk about Portugal and say, even in her dementia, when the brain was doing the last synapses, she would still say, I have friends in Portugal, I have land. All fiction. We do not know anyone in Portugal. So memories or acquire memories or somewhere in her soul, she knew I might go back for her. So after 11 years that she died, I knew the village where she was born. I had her birth certificate. I had photos of her as in Brazil or in Brazil. She went on her birth certificate. I know she entered Brazil when she was 1.5. But because she said she had friends, I went with this idea that I was going to find those fictitious friends for her, these people that she believed she had. No one knew her there. I went to the village and I invited people to write her a postcard in a way, pretending magic realism, pretending they were her friends, the friends she never had. And they did. And they basically got involved into this whole magic realism. Those two ladies, especially the one here working in the field, her little fictitious friends, she totally took the project on board. And I would come to a village in the morning, to the village. I had to have a folder with my grandma's birth certificate, her photos from Brazil. They needed to see she's one of them. She was once one of them. And I would come to the village and she would go, we have more friends for your granny. And she found, and they all found, the women that became my project leads, found a lot of people to write postcards to her. And so at the same time as I did the postcards, so the front of the postcard is the photo of whoever wrote. At the same time I did the postcards, I also did a visual diary of everything I'm finding. And this is my granny when she was very young, already in Brazil. And I found the flowers of Portugal that she never managed to smell. I did at the same, it was an incursion into the village, a residency of my own with the sponsor of Fuji Portugal. But I managed to somehow go back for her. I feel very much I went back for her, and I lived for a few weeks the life she had never had. And when people are writing the postcards to her, they go, "Dear Anna, where have you been, my friend?" Da, 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 da. And they are talking of the life they have had, but it would have been the life she would have had if she had never left. But the beauty of it that then this whole little town is looking for my relatives because they're saying, okay, a lot of the north of Portugal, the countryside of Portugal, has villages that are half abandoned. People have gone to Brazil in big numbers in various times in the century, on the 20th century especially. And then everyone is looking for, and this lady here, this younger woman, finds a letter from these older women. And it turns out this older woman is my granny's first degree cousin, who my granny never met. So it was one of those, the programs, Who Do You Think You Are? Kind of going
Yeah.
back to your roots. It was so incredible and so healing. And she wrote the best postcards. She wrote, I don't have the translation here. Sorry, guys. She said, "My dear Anna, I'm here with your. I love you so much, and I never met you. I'm here with your your granddaughter, and it's just really beautiful. Yeah, first degree cousin. So this was a lot of connection, a lot of healing. So I feel I use photography in this personal project side, also to heal at my own issues and my own life, and to also it's not about curiosity, it's about empathy, but it's also about looking into whatever phase I'm living at that time in my life. Okay. And then I come for what we're probably going to focus a bit more today, which is the activism, the idea that I love this phrase that I heard from Alice Walker. Do you know Alice Walker? She is the author of Purple Color. How do you say in English? Purple color, color purple, color purple.
Colour purple, yeah.
Beautiful, yeah. Um, and so, in parallel to doing all of this, personal projects, all between the Brazilian street girls and my granddad have been a lot. I've been going to the Amazon for many years, and as you can see here, shall I just read or you guys read that?
Maybe let everybody read it for a minute.
Yeah. So, so yeah, I had this archive. So the pandemic came, it stuck everyone at home, as we know. Anyway, and my kids were getting all these Zoom lessons from, maths and English, and three kids at home, quite young still. And then I have this archive not only of indigenous people, but river people, from the Amazon in general. And I decided to talk to the children about what I knew better than maths and English. I could teach them about the plight of the Amazon and the realities of the environment. And I was seeing a lot of fires in the Amazon at the time. So I invited them to revisit my archive. They chose the pictures that they wanted to print and work with. So this is us, this is them working on the pictures that we printed, and they started to and one of the issues at the Amazon at the time was fire, but also COVID. Of course, the indigenous and river people got ill very, very badly with COVID, but also one of the very big issues at the Amazon is gold mining. And so the kids started to work with gold as a color. And when I told them that this, all in age appropriate manner, you look at these photos, they are quite heavy, and you go, oh my God, all this blood and stuff. But actually, they were creating this in a way that they could comprehend. And I was, and my understanding of what's the plight of the Amazon and what's going there is, of course, as an adult. But when I told them that the Amazonians, the indigenous people, are the guardians of the Amazon, they start to put wings in all the photos of some of the photos, and this again became an exhibition and a little book. You can see here. This became a book in Brazil, and it also became a exhibition in Portugal. And it's really special that the children could see that you can dream up a project in the middle of the pandemic, and somehow, somewhere, it will find a way out, an outcome. And it was really sweet. And this book is in Portuguese, but it's yes. And now my children know. I felt very much I was teaching them of that reality. But that reality I was talking about is the gold mining, is the fact that it's not only gold. And I would say now, with the transition, the energetic transition that we are seeing, the Amazon is sitting on a lot of precious minerals, not only gold. There is a lot of precious minerals that will help your lithium battery and the car, the transition, the green transition that we're living through, your electric cars and stuff. So it's a difficult time for that region that is so important to the world, not just for Brazil. But I brought this little thing here because I think before I show you the images of our work together with the indigenous, this is the Federal Police of Brazil that gave me because I'm actually working in a documentary right now with indigenous people for the Brazilian channel, and they gave me that. And it just gives you the desolation that the mining brings to the forest. It's just a scar.
So this scar was forest, it was trees.
Yeah, that is the scar. It literally they come in, they cut the trees, and those puddles that you're seeing, they're huge. Is how they kind of get the land, the earth moving to kind of mine for gold. But you see how deep it goes, and it's just desolating. And this is in the middle of an indigenous territory. And it's all illegal. It's clandestine gold mining. A lot of it is in the helicopter of the police there. They literally do raids there and they destroy the machines because you need to have tractors to destroy all these trees, and the miners hide on these corners here. But I'm showing this to you to have an idea of how the indigenous people are trying to protect the land. No, sorry, let me just stop there. Yet those miners, I've also spent, for in the past, I spent time with miners too, because many times they're just people that don't know, they are living out of that. They themselves are not, if they're not the machine owners, the rich people, they are themselves living day to day, trying to find a tiny bit of gold to survive. So it's quite it's quite a thing to. I don't like the idea of, let's say, oh, the indigenous and protectors of the land are the goodies and those guys are the baddies, because the reality of any place is so complex. But I spent a week in a mine for another project well before, and I decided to put this here for you guys to see what you're seeing from above. That that's what they're doing, and the way they destroy the earth like this with massive. They need to generators to pump the water and destroy the land, the earth. They eat through the earth like that, and the reason why. I'm going to show you the next project is about mercury, is because mercury is a byproduct of the gold mining. They are using mercury to separate. I think, Sean, you said something really scientific yesterday. I like it what you said. It's maybe your engineering background, to separate the sediment from the gold. And they use mercury that is also contaminating them in a big way. So I like just use, and mercury is illegal as well. They're buying the clandestine black market.
It's super poisonous.
Is so poisonous, and is so poisonous. And now I'm working alongside scientists, and they say they've observed brain cells being eaten by mercury. Is something is terrible, and that's why it ends up with a neurological. It looks like, if you are contaminated by mercury, it looks like a neurological issue. But I'm coming back here because the Munduruku people, those ones that are here, they are one of the many indigenous groups in the Amazon. But I turned out that I have quite an affinity with them because I've been there a few times, and I've been there for the Sunday Times, and we managed to get the cover of the Sunday Times magazine with their story, which was special. It was in 2021, and it was the day the COP, the Conference for the Environment, was opening in Scotland. And it was really special. Alessandra, the main leader, this lady here, she was there. She was walking around with the magazine, and it was since the 70s the Sunday Times had not put the Amazon on the cover of the magazine, of the Sunday Times magazine. And then later I went for Planet Earth because BBC saw Alessandra on this magazine, and they wanted. Planet Earth had an episode of the heroes of conservation, and so Alessandra was one of the heroes. And then the third time I went was to do this much more personal project that you're going to see now, and it was for the RPS environmental bursary. Sorry, let me just see that. And this is what I'm going to show you. So I was very ambitious. I don't know how much you know that. Obviously, you know that the RPS has bursaries, really helpful I don't know if some of you guys have tried them. I don't know. But I was very ambitious because the Amazon is a very expensive place. Before I went with the Sunday Times, with the BBC, and this time, literally, the environment, I said, oh, yeah, I got to visit the Munduruku and invite them to do what my kids had done but this time with their own photographs. But it was very, very ambitious financially. I went with my own little canoe for days. Um, Yes, so this body of work is the result of many hands in the village, various materials, and then we decided together that there will be three colors used to carry the marks of mercury, so the silver, gold, because the gold mining, and red for the blood. Yeah, and I'm just going to show you the photos because I think it was like, it's not dissimilar to arriving on the village of my grandmother in Portugal, is an invitation. You never know what was going to come out. I couldn't go and say, I want you to do this project because similar to what my kids did, they saw the book, my kids' books. They understood that it doesn't matter the medium. It matters, of course. Sometimes it was the BBC, Planet Earth, or the Sunday Times, but this time was an artivism, we said. And we did a lot of processes. And I thought only the young people are going to get into the whole thing. So we did some cyanotypes. We created a little darkroom area in a little hut. It was so sweaty, like a little sauna, and painted the cyanotype emotion. And then I thought only the young people get involved, but then it turned out that there's a little village school in this one village, and the young people got involved, but then the older people too. It was a huge community effort in a way, and the teachers got really involved because while we were painting, the same way I had done with my own children, we were talking about the mercury contamination. They're very aware. The Munduruku has been one of the peoples that have been examined by doctors, and they have 6 times the level of mercury in the body that they should. So they're very, very aware. They were very aware of the mark making they were doing. And the older women, so they work a lot with beads, naturally doing their own jewelry. So they were beading in the photograph and actual paper. I will show you when we stop the slide. I'll show you the originals. They are like 3D. They are so beautiful. And then we had little sessions. I wish I had the time, the money to bring a little filmmaker. Amazing girls, look at that. We're going to use all of this in our photos this afternoon. You are amazing. I'm telling they are amazing, but they didn't understand. So later I told them what amazing meant. And here we are watching a little bit of the cyanotypes. Parabéns, menina. Seguimos mais uma etapa. Boa tarde, eu vou fazer. Amazing girls, look at. Oh, I wish I had a filmmaker that could come and show the beauty of it, but I had no budget. So I had those little videos. And those are the results, the cyanotypes. We rephotographed. Somehow the cyanotype was not dry enough because they were too impatient to wait. And then it became quite natural, a golden color here, because apparently I read somewhere that if you don't dry it properly, the emotion will not go blue.
Carries on reacting.
Yeah. And somehow it worked out. Has anyone tried cyanotypes? Huh. Do you think this is it? And the whole, somehow it's perfect. It's so golden, but yeah. And then, yeah, we use the river water the sand, the river water to wash it away. But the sand of the river bank, which is very white, but all is contaminated. The contamination of mercury is on the food chain. And those are the pieces they created with the, stitching, beading, painting. This someone did in beading is fora garimpo, which is out mining.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please, Maria.
Sorry if I missed it, but did you photograph each person and then give them the photograph to do what they did?
Yes, and I'm sorry if I missed saying that because I had gone there. Look at that. Because I had gone there 2 times before. with the Sunday Times and with the BBC, I had this archive of photos of them. This is such a good question because yes, I unfortunately it's very, very remote where they are. It's like 2 airplanes, 8 hours by car, sleep over somewhere, 3 hours by car and a boat. I wouldn't be able, with the budget I had for the bursary, I wouldn't be able to go photograph them, go to a town somewhere, develop that. So yes, I took the photos from a little earlier, 2 years earlier and 3 years earlier when I had been, and that was the proposal of the bursary as well. I said, I've been to these people, I have those photos, I'm going to do something with that. So everyone, when they were working in their photos, they'll be older already. So this baby now, he was working in the photo with his mom, and so was he as a toddler now. But it's very important because mercury it goes it transfers very easily on the placenta and mother's milk. So it's quite interesting and important to show the babies. And the authorities in Brazil are making really big work around that. There's a film that has been done. I don't know if anyone know. There's a photographer. He was in the 50s, 70s, called Eugene Smith, and he photographed in a place in Japan called Minamata, which was a town that for 20 years suffered with mercury contamination. And the authorities didn't discover it was this one company that was putting mercury in the water, and it contaminated the whole thing. And those photos, his essay of that meant that the whole process started against this company, and now there are still descendants, there are still the older people that are the birth defects and everything. It's shocking. And there's a film as well. Johnny Depp did a film called Minamata. So what happened at the same time that I was doing the stuff, or a little earlier, the Brazilian guys who I know the director as well, he did a film called Amazon, the New Minamata, because it's a ticking time bomb there, but it takes a long time to be seen. And so the film is a really important film they're showing, and it's actually showing this group because it's one of the three main groups that are very contaminated. So yeah, this is the landscapes that they were working in. They no longer can fish safely because the fish is all contaminated, all sizes of fish, babies. But I very much let them do what they needed to do.
Can I ask another question? Sorry.
Yes, please.
I just think they're so beautiful. I really do. And I just can't. Did you use all of them? Were some of them awful? I just imagine if I gave a bunch, well, even myself, if I took a photograph and and did what, it would probably be a mess. But these have come out really well. So
is another good question. Let me see if I can go to a little photo here. Oh no, I'll come back. Wait. If you see this photo, is a very good question, and I'm obviously not showing all the behind the scenes. So what happened is that you see this little girl with this photo there. So I took because the project was the budget was low. Yui in Bristol helped me to print those photos that are bigger, and I will show you later the original ones. There are no A4s, but I also, in a cheaper way, printed smaller ones because I knew that the kids would go crazy for painting them. And I took a lot of those that were kid-proof. And it was really interesting how the teenagers were so much more careful and considered. Oh, sorry. Where are they? There, those guys, they were literally saying, you go to that table, the kids' table. It's like literally was a workshop with different, and they were taking care. So the younger people, see this photo here, you see a younger person is doing a less precious photo. And for the precious photos, the older people, see how careful they are here doing this mark making. But I agree. I mean, it was incredible that they could just be so careful, but they were themselves controlling the kids and not letting the younger ones come in and go and mess around the other photos. And the small photos, the kids ones, is also a whole beautiful thing because they did lots of gold and lots of suffocating mercury and There was a care within the community to not let, and I was guiding, I'm not just letting go. Like I say, come on, guys, hey kids, come to this way. I'm guiding them to not make a mess as well. But they were if anything, you see this mark making here, they do paint their bodies with those marks already, but now we silver color. They paint with the natural dye, black dye. So they know this marks is the Munduruku mark of painting. So they are artists, they're artisans. That's why they can do this amazing beading and, but yeah, this is amazing. I find it's incredible that they came up with this. The way that the trees.
There's a thing that sort of struck me, and others have probably noticed it. We're often led to believe that these folks are so remote and they don't have access to technology. But just like any teenagers around a table, there was a pile of mobile phones.
Absolutely. And
so they're very much aware of the modern world.
Absolutely. And it's very good to spot that, because the series I'm working right now for the Brazilian TV, we are showing exactly that, how those guys are very much between two worlds. They are trying to somehow survive and look after the ancestral kind of knowledge, but also they want to be part of modernity. And I must say, Starlink, Elon Musk, has brought the internet to the Amazon. All these villages, they have Starlink somehow, with a solar plate or a generator, only a few hours a day, but they do have it. And they want to be part of that too. Why would they not want to be? But yeah, well spotted. Oh yeah, this is the one we saw on the table. They were doing and the scientist I'm working with, that I consulted with, she was saying it's so clever because the mercury does not leave the atmosphere, it stays locked in, it evaporates and comes back. It is in the soil, it's everywhere. And it's like they feel it, it's just so beautiful. When you see them, the 3D part of them, it's just like, but I'm bringing this here. Oh yeah, so you saw this on the table as well in front of a teenager. Oh, sorry. She was marking the red. So this original was a photo that had this, you see this yellow thing there? You already had it, because I took this photo from this barge. So I went into this barge wanting to see the other side, because as well as the land mining, they have barges that are mining barges, and they are using huge, like aeroplane motors to move the soil. It's like it's like trolling the sea. They're moving the soil, the earth, and then getting through here on this. Let me just move this there. Yeah, getting the water sieving through the water there, and then when it comes towards the end of this kind of carpet of water, it starts to get separated, and then they start to use the mercury. But the kind of the jets of these barges, is disturbing all the rivers. So this river, Tapajós, used to be transparent, and it's more and more in this creamy, weird water. So the little water you saw them washing the cyanotype in is a little affluent to this Tapajós. They don't go in this big river now. But talking of the painting, this is that chief. And he said, although they use painting on their bodies, normally the women are the painters. And he said to me, I never touch a paintbrush. What do I do? And he just did this mark making, the soil of the forest. I had this from my trip before, and he did, and his market, and his wife then said, I'm going to take yours, and she's the one that put his beading through, and so they're very proud of that. He really totally got it. This time we're doing artivism, and what is so special, again, look, the atmosphere thing, and they involve the mercury around the atmosphere, and what I love is how they put here this, again, to encapsulate even more the mercury on the landscape. What is being special is that we ended up in COP. This was done in September, and then November we had the COP, which was the first COP in the Amazon, the conference for the environment, the one that I had been to in Scotland with the Sunday Times. And it was really special because it was just last minute. The work was literally not there yet, but some curators saw it. And because it's the same state, in the Amazonian state of Pará, where the indigenous Munduruku are, some of them were coming anyway in boats, for 3 days and buses and stuff. And it was very special that they could come and see themselves in this beautiful house, outdoors exhibition. And we also created a little debate. We talked about Mercury. So the girls came and spoke. This is her here. See how she's a bit older than she was here because the photo is from 2, 3 years before. So that was a very special thing to have them a cop. And on next week, we have an outing of those images in Somerset House in a room, because next week we have Climate Week in London, which is like a mini COP, really. It's so many activities, so many things. And the president of COP is coming, the minister of Brazil is coming. And in this room in Somerset House, there are quite a few important events being hosted, and they are going to be exhibited there. So hopefully people will see the project, but also help in because I have a campaign open for them. The needs are a lot there, a lot of needs, I was saying to Sean. It doesn't look like, but they do need like boats and moving around, and fuel in the Amazon is gold. It really is. It's so distances are so long. But my aim next week when I go and meet, the Minister of the Indigenous Affairs is going to come to the room where they're being exhibited. My hope is to expand the project as well, is to talk about Mercury in a way that doesn't. There are loads of people doing good work on a lot of things in a photojournalistic way, in a documentary way, but maybe I want to expand this project in an artistic way. I just shared this because the other day, has someone heard of Duane Mitchell's? He's a photographer that died last week. And he said, I think photographs should be provocative and not tell you what you already know. It takes no great powers or magic to reproduce somebody's face in a photograph. The magic is in seeing people in new ways. Obviously, this is questionable. I think photographing people in a straight way is beautiful. But I loved that phrase when I read, and I do admire his work, and he was quite admired in Brazil and did quite interesting projects, American guy. But my question is, how can we see people and tell stories in new ways? How can we create the conditions for people to see themselves, each other, and their place in the world in new ways? So I guess it's pretty much the question I'm asking when I go to this place and invite, I invite them to do something, to let's just play. And how could we tell your story in a way that is playful? Because although it's so harsh, and seeing the Amazon and the destruction, there are such beautiful moments. You saw those moments in the forest or moments together. And the Amazon is about that. It's about these paradoxes of beauty and intensity and sadness at the same time. So this is Victoria, who was one of my big helpers, holding a photo of herself. And this is I'm very thankful, and I will stop the sharing soon, but I'll leave this here for me. I'm very thankful that I've asked Donata and your beautiful group for a fee. We're going to have a fee of £100 that will go straight to this campaign, which is here. And we opened this campaign really recently when we showed the Minamata film in London at the same time as my exhibition. And is a QR code for that campaign that I have here to grow, because it will go straight to the Pariri Association, which is an indigenous association, not only for this Munduruku village, but for the whole territory where there are many villages. That's
Fabulous.
it.
Hey, well, maybe you might like to put the QR code, and we'll just leave that on the screen, because then if people watch the video afterwards, they can also see that for a little bit longer and maybe point their cameras at it.
Yes, thank you. That's kind. I'm so thankful for you guys, but also, yeah, thank you for the claps I've seen.
Yes, anybody got any questions? If you want to voice them, please come off mute and do that. Or if you just want to type it, I can read it. That would be great.
I love questions.
I love that word, artivism. That's And I don't know how often I've heard that before, but it's not very often.
No, it's quite new. Well, I didn't invent it, but the beauty of actually being bilingual and speaking differently, you can sometimes I get my English quite wrong. And I said, does this word is in Portuguese? And I just anglicized it, or no, but artivism is something that people are talking about very recently. And I heard I started to use for us in the village, but also I heard a COP in Belém. What happened in a COP in Belém in the Amazon, which I ended up going again on a shoestring budget, just got some fundraising to go and visit and put this exhibition together and create that debate with the girls. I had never seen an event where the grassroots, where the civil society movement was so strong. So, COP is a bit of a circus where there's UN organized environment where people come and discuss fossil fuels and and how we're going to kind of come out of the mess that we are and for the planet. But then the indigenous themselves are hardly invited to the tables, to the discussion. The people that are actually there on the forefront, not only the indigenous, the river people, the people that are in the forefront of the battle for the planet are normally not invited not in a big considered number. The lobbyists are there, the big people, the big business, the politicians. And so what was so beautiful about this COP is just that 3,000 indigenous people were there because it was in the Amazon, and so many other movements of the civil society. And I realized something I think I mentioned yesterday, Sean, for me, because I sometimes despair, when I was in the middle of the pandemic, telling my children those stories of the Amazon and thinking, is there a future for them? Is there a future of the planet for them that is livable? And I sometimes despair. But then when I went to COP and didn't go to the blue UN zone, I went to the streets, I realized that the answer is in the civil society, is in the grassroots movements. And then I use that analogy a lot. Those movements are like mycelium, the kind of fungi. They're under the forest,
Yeah.
communicating, making a difference. So I have to believe in that. And so artivism comes from that place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great word, and that gets people talking about the problem, and maybe just doing small things makes a big difference.
Yeah. My dear, I can't hear you. My dear, you're mute.
Yeah.
I've just, yeah,
Ah,
sorry. Um, I think it's very difficult to engage with such subjects that are often feel overwhelming or negative. People don't want to hear more negativity,
yeah.
'cause we get overwhelmed. But when you can aestheticize it in the way that you have, I think it's really engaging and it's a really amazing way
Oh
in.
my God. I love this, Maria, because we came after this. This has been always the discussion on my work, from Women's Hour 22 years ago, 20, no, Women's Hour 25 years ago,
Where did that
with
go?
the Brazilian street girls, yeah, you give these beauty moments and da da da. I engage with this idea very much. What are you saying? Because I think sometimes there is a degree of compassion fatigue and you're seeing images and it's debate that the charity sector talks discusses a lot, but like in the cinema the other day, there's a show now at the Genesis Cinema in London. It's a trendy cinema, and we had the Amazon Film Festival opening there and the Minamata film, and the Minamata film is so effective to be seen because a hardcore documentary about this contamination. It shows this is happening, guys, is the new Minamata. And then people came out and saw this beauty. Look at this beauty. I mean, you can see it's 3D. I have the plastic here, but it's just too much beauty and they created. And then someone that is quite journalistic, long background around Brazil and the Amazon, she said, "Oh, Letty, this is too beautiful to touch people." She said that. And I'm like, it's exactly what you're saying. It's the opposite. For me, it's the opposite. I think people need to be touched in whatever ways. Sometimes it's through the heart, sometimes through the mind. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I felt like, oh my God, I wish I had time to come into this discussion with her. Yeah, it's okay and I can say I've been there for this so many times. I've been there for the BBC, but this time we're doing artivism.
Mm.
It's really, fabulous. And in terms of, going there again, it's just you. You're not going with a whole crew of people and doing things. So once
Yeah.
again, you're putting yourself out there in harm's way is probably too strong a word or a couple of words,
No,
but
it is.
you
It
know,
is harm's way. I mean, I'm getting older as well. It's a very harsh environment. I know it looks beautiful and idyllic in the photos that I have, but actually, the mosquitoes that got me this time, they got me. I had some sort of allergy I had never had before, and I couldn't. When you see me photographing the girls there and saying that my feet were so swollen that I couldn't put my boots. I had to wear flip-flops with socks so the mosquitoes would not continue to attack me. Two socks, so it's not so aggressive and sleep in a hammock and I must say there's a difference as well because I didn't go with a crew. I went with very little money and they knew, when I went with the BBC, I made sure that everyone that is in film was paid a salary because we're there parachuting their lives, wanting them to tell us their life about their lives. Imagine someone came to our lives and said, I'm going to come with a camera inside your house and here we go. So I made sure that everyone had everything was paid for. There was abundance, there's food and stuff. But this time I couldn't pay. I paid food for everyone that was part of the workshops for the 2-3 days we had the workshops. I paid, of course, my way on fuel, and it's so expensive and more for them to have spare. But it was a much more modest way of going, and I felt really broken afterwards, physically broken. It's so harsh. And still we can create beauty, which is that paradox that I was talking about.
Yeah. Mm. Well, thank you. It's amazing.
Yeah,
thank
thank
you
you
very
for
much,
hearing
Letitia.
me. I've gone past quickly
Yeah, well,
through.
Pat, any more questions, anybody? I could imagine people are rushing off and thinking about football,
Of
but
course, and you
I
feel free
still
to
see
go.
actually we've got most people are still here. That's very good. Thank you very much for staying.
Yeah, thank you guys, and good luck to England.
Yeah, so anybody got any more questions?
Hello.
Love to hear. Chris, hello.
Chris.
Hello. Could I just say there was an exhibition in that 2 years ago in that gallery in the Strand called 180 with photographs
Yeah.
and video by that chap who shoots in infrared.
Yes.
And at
Yes.
the end of the program, he was photographing a group of Indians in the Amazon, and one of the young women turned on me and said, "Why are you here? You should be back in Sao Paulo or wherever, telling Bolsonaro, etc., etc., etc." And this
Yeah.
chimed in with what you said towards the end of your talk about what they want. They want the modern world.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
anyway, many thanks. I think it's a brilliant initiative on
Yeah.
behalf of the contemporary group, and it's delightful to hear what you had to say. So thank you very much.
It's amazing, Chris. And I remember the exhibition very well. I felt very emotional. And you will not believe that. But when I was there for the Sunday Times, he was recording in the same village. Moss, what's his name?
Yeah, Moss. Yeah, yeah.
Moss, yeah. And saying that, oh no, I can't be saying that in record. No, leave it for another time when we're not recording. But I did go to the exhibition, and actually, I recognized places and people
Yeah.
because he was traveling with a very big budget. He was traveling with Hollywood-like cameras and
Yeah, I bet. Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
massive
yeah.
crew. Yeah,
Yeah.
But didn't he win the Deutsche Boss?
He
yeah,
did.
and,
He
and
He
he
did.
had
He
did,
a
did.
didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
and he had a massive, yeah, he
Yeah,
won
yeah, yeah,
before
yeah.
massive, massive grant to go there and travel the whole of the Amazon. And because
Yeah.
I know all the fixers of the Amazon, the people that make things happen in terms of, if a crew has to go, and he was traveling with a fixer, a friend of mine, and they arrive in the village. I know I was there for the Sunday Times. Yeah, so it was me and the Sunday Times journalist I work with a lot, Christina Lamb, who I love and work with for a long time in the Amazon. And it felt so disparate, me and my stills camera. And then these guys arrive in Hollywood, like sound system and film camera. I think they had a 35mm camera. Anyway, he goes to shows. You can do. So, I mean, talking about you guys, tell me about you. Are you guys into projects? Do you do your own personal projects, like in the community, like little mycelium working around?
Oh, Jan here.
Chat, John.
Yeah.
I I don't know if it's a project or not, but I 2 years ago I went to Rwanda with a charity, UK charity that refurbishes wheelchairs. Anyway, I'm going again in September,
Amazing.
and because people out there don't have wheelchairs, walking aids, so my role was specific around portraits, but it was very emotional. I don't know whether it's a project or not, but today I've just met up with the partners. Um,
And you're going
anyway,
again.
yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
yeah, I mean, I learned such a lot.
Yes. It's
I
so
don't,
humbling, isn't it?
it is,
Yeah.
and you know, I'm there. I'm not a professional photographer. It's just a
But
hobby.
what is a professional photographer?
Well, somebody more technical than me, that's for sure.
Ah, technical, yeah. It's interesting to talk about technical for me. I felt very early on, I'm not a technical person. And I mean, you saw how I first did my first project with the Pentax, Pentax
Ah,
K1000.
yeah, but hey,
Great camera.
yeah.
Huh?
Also, last year I went to Zambia, and it wasn't a photography project, but there were street children there, and
Uh-huh.
and I'd never seen street children in because they're in Lusaka and they came down from the copper belt and they think their lives are made in Lusaka. Well, they're not. And I saw children living on the streets, and they have this plastic bottle of um, a drug called, oh, I've forgotten what the name of the drug is, but it's a mixture of,
They were sniffing it or drinking?
yes,
Yeah.
airplane fuel or something.
Yeah.
Sticker,
Yeah.
sticker.
Yeah.
So I
It's
mean, I
so
wasn't,
sad.
yeah. And in Zambia, there are quite few orphanages that are well managed, if you know what the words
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
so you saw the reality, isn't it? I mean, obviously there's a huge, don't get me wrong, there's so much value in documenting things in a photojournalistic way, so much value.
yeah,
It's just that I'm interested on the other, a little bit more hidden, playful side to things, but there's value in everything, isn't it?
yeah,
The mycelium I'm talking about, which is us all in the grassroots working, there's space for everyone to create
yeah.
whatever bit that we want to create, you know?
So what's the future of young people in the Amazon with all that devastation?
Yes,
Unknown or
yes, good point. I mean, no, for example, it countrywide, Brazil has a massive election this year, which is
yeah, oh, right, yeah.
presidential election. So the right wing Bolsonaro might come back, or his
Oh,
son.
oh,
And you know, in 4 years that Bolsonaro was there was a lot of undermining of protections, you know, environmental protections. They very
yeah,
much changed the constitution and then
right,
did amendments in the constitutions. And so in 4 years, Lula is trying to bring back, and so this is countrywide, but is they themselves are living this paradox between two words and stuff. But what
yeah,
is so
yeah,
beautiful about the Brazilian, oh no, the indigenous movement, not only Brazilian, on the whole
yeah,
Amazon basin, is
yeah,
how conscious it is. I saw in COP, you know, it's very much a movement that's grown and grown and grown and is really fighting for the environment. So in London next week, you know,
yeah,
there's so much going on in terms of debates and a lot of it centered in the Amazon, and the indigenous movement is a strong force to reckon with, I
yeah,
would say.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your
Yeah.
time. Thank you. And sharing too. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope to
Hope
be able to.
Brazil do well in the football.
No, I think I'm going to. I hope England goes well. Brazil's not doing that well, is it?
Right. I
I
don't
know
know. I
Brazil's
don't
not
know.
doing that well. I'm going to leave
Thank you.
like Sean. No, I'm not leaving you. We are all going to, but I would just leave.
Thank you.
If anyone wants
Yeah.
to read about this campaign, take a photo perhaps of this. How
Yeah.
does it work, the QR code? And then I leave it here. But it's a pleasure to hear from you guys. And I'm sure Donata, thank you for inviting me, Sean and everyone. And it's really great to be able. We hear more. You have this this process of a group together, and I don't know how much you get together and discuss things, but it's so good to hear ourselves talking about our work, right? Because it just, yeah, you elaborate things in the way that, yeah, you see how it lands on people as well.
Yeah, we do have very active local groups which are doing exactly that. People working together, exchanging ideas, and talking about their work. So this is a great group from that point of view. We've got quite a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and feel free to follow me on social media and ask me any questions. And it's great to be in touch. And the book, my granny's book, is a beautiful book as well. It's let me just get this. It was stop share. It's a book that was published in London, but it's a chunky book.
Really nice book. Yeah,
Yeah, it's her, bless her. Is a woman that of her generation that had no many dreams fulfilled, couldn't be the artist she wanted to be, couldn't marry the man she wanted to marry, and never went back to motherland. So I did a few things. I'm doing a few things for her in the hope that heals their family wound.
very good. Well, everybody, I think, unless we've got some more questions, let's call it a night. And thank Leticia for a fabulous presentation. I'll thank Donata for getting us in touch with Leticia again.
I'm seeing the lovely claps. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Maria. Oh, Maria, thank you for being here. Chan.
Right.
Lovely, Phil. And good luck. Let's go, England.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and let me know, Sean, when this is on your YouTube, and I will share.
I will do.
And if anyone is around Somerset House next week, we have this showcase that should be beautiful.
Thanks all.
Thank you so much, guys.
Keep safe.
Thank
Go
you.
England.